The whispers were never supposed to reach our ears, yet here we are, forced to confront the reality of everything that's been said. The silence, once our refuge, is now broken, and there's nowhere left to hide. You know the feeling when the world whispers about you, crafting stories that are both near and far from the truth. But sometimes the weight of it all forces you to step into the light and speak your truth, no matter the cost. Everyone has their version of the story, but the truth is something that's yet to be fully understood. Now that they've forced my hand, I can no longer remain silent. It's time for clarity. I never wanted to be a part of the gossip, the rumors, or the speculation. But now, the truth demands to be heard. I stand here, vulnerable but strong, because there is no turning back anymore. For so long, the whispers were nothing more than background noise. But now, with their voices growing louder, I find myself caught in a moment of self-reflection, wondering if it's time to address everything once and for all. Every word spoken behind closed doors has now spilled into the open, and they've pushed me to a place where silence is no longer an option. I can no longer stand by and let assumptions define who we are. The weight of the whispers has finally reached its peak. Now, I can't ignore it any longer. They've forced me to speak, to finally give my side of the story that's been twisted for far too long. Sometimes, life pushes you to the edge where your silence becomes louder than words. But when they push too hard, when they force your hand, you find the strength to reveal your truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. I never imagined a day would come when I'd have to confront the rumors, the assumptions, and the judgment. But here I am, speaking not to defend, but to clarify, to set the record straight. There comes a time when the whispers aren't just whispers anymore. They become expectations, pressures, and demands. Now they've forced my hand, and I can no longer pretend I don't feel the weight of their words. It's one thing to hear whispers about us, but it's another to feel them pulling at your soul, forcing you to make decisions that you never wanted to make. The time for silence is over. The more they talk, the more the pressure builds, until one day you realize that staying quiet isn't a choice. It's a responsibility to yourself. Now that I've been pushed into this corner, it's time to speak up. I never wanted my feelings to be fodder for their speculation, but now that they've forced my hand, I find myself caught between what I've always kept private and the reality of what everyone now thinks they know. Whispers may start quietly, but they grow louder and louder until they become an undeniable force, pushing you toward a decision you didn't plan for. Now, with everything on the line, I'm forced to stand up and speak my truth. It's funny how quickly the world can turn your life into a story for everyone to judge. But when they push too hard, when the whispers become demands, it forces you to reevaluate everything you thought you knew. They never cared about the truth until they needed it. Now that I've been forced to confront their expectations, I realize that sometimes standing up for yourself means revealing the parts you've kept hidden for so long. I used to think the whispers didn't matter, but now, as they grow louder and more insistent, I realize that silence can no longer be my shield. It's time to share what has been buried deep within me. I've spent so much time letting the whispers pass me by, thinking they'd lose their power. But now I see that they only grow stronger when ignored, and they've pushed me to a place where I can no longer stay silent. What happens when everyone has an opinion about you? When every decision you make is scrutinized by those who think they know best? Eventually, you're forced to reveal the truth to silence the noise. When the whispers turn into something that feels like a weight on your chest, you can only ignore it for so long. Eventually, the pressure of it all forces you to stand up and face what's been said. You think you can control your narrative, but sometimes the world has a way of forcing you to open up, whether you're ready or not. The time has come to stop hiding and confront everything that's been said. The whispers were just background noise until they became the soundtrack of my life. Now, with their reach growing, I have no choice but to face the truth and take control of the story they've been writing about me. I thought silence was my strongest weapon, but the more they whispered, the more it felt like I was being suffocated by their words. Now, I've been forced to speak up, to set the record straight, and reclaim my voice. Sometimes the world doesn't give you a choice. The whispers grow louder, and before you know it, you're standing in the middle of a storm, forced to speak up or be drowned out by the noise. It's a strange thing to know that people are talking about you, making assumptions, and spreading rumors. But when the whispers turn into a roar, you realize that it's time to speak your truth, no matter how hard it may be. For a long time, I believed silence was my way of protecting myself. But now that the whispers have grown into something bigger, I see that the only way forward is to stand up and confront the truth. Everyone has their theories, their interpretations, and their judgments. But when those whispers start to shape the reality you're living in, you can't just sit back and let them dictate your story. At some point, the whispers become a force you can't ignore. They push you into a corner where silence no longer feels like an option. Now, it's time to confront the truth, no matter how raw or painful it might be. The truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how much we try to bury it. And when everyone starts whispering, we can either remain silent or face the consequences of hiding behind our own walls. For a while, I tried to ignore the whispers. I convinced myself they didn't matter, that they couldn't hurt me. But now I realize that avoiding the truth only gives them more power. It's time to take control. When the whispers start to take over your life, it becomes hard to distinguish between what's real and what's been imagined. But the moment comes when you realize you can't live in the shadows anymore. I never expected to be put in this position where my every move is being observed and discussed. But now it feels as if there's no choice but to confront the reality that the whispers have created. There's a point where you stop running from the truth, where the weight of everyone's expectations pushes you into a corner. And when that time comes, you realize that speaking up is the only way to regain control. Everyone has an opinion, but it's my life. It's my story, and while the whispers may have shaped what others think, it's time for me to share the truth in my own words, on my own terms. The more I hear the whisper, the more I realize that silence can't protect me anymore. Now it's time to reveal what's been hidden, to share the parts of me that have been kept in the dark for too long. Whispers have a way of turning into accusations, into stories that aren't your own. And when they build up to a certain point, you can't help but wonder, is it finally time to let everyone hear my side? You can only pretend to be invisible for so long before the whispers grow too loud to ignore. And when that happens, you have no choice but to step forward and face what's been said about you. The moment you stop hiding from the whisper is the moment you take back control. It's not about defending yourself. It's about being true to who you are, no matter what anyone else believes. The whispers have made their way into every corner of my life, but they don't define me. Now I'm choosing to step out from the shadows, not because I have to, but because I'm ready to face whatever comes next. It's exhausting to live under the weight of whispers, to know that people are watching and judging. But I've learned that the only way to silence the noise is to speak up, to tell my truth in my own words. I didn't ask for this, to be the subject of whispers and rumors. But now that it's here, I realize there's only one way to break free from the chains they've placed around me. Speak my truth. The whispers started as a whisper, but now they've grown into a roar that's impossible to ignore. And when the world speaks this loudly, sometimes the only thing you can do is speak louder. I've spent too long allowing the whispers to shape my narrative, to define who I am. But now it's time to take control and show the world the real me, not the version they've created in their minds. When the whispers begin to take on a life of their own, you can no longer remain silent. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about standing up for the person you truly are, no matter how difficult that may be. For a long time, I tried to ignore the whispers, thinking they would fade on their own. But now I know that ignoring the noise only gives it more power. It's time to speak up and reclaim my voice. There's a moment in every person's life when they're faced with a choice. Stay silent and let the whispers control their destiny, or speak out and take back the narrative. That moment has come for me. The whispers are no longer just background noise. They are the soundtrack to my life. And as they grow louder, I realize that I can't ignore them any longer. It's time to take a stand and be heard.